Tuesday, Plus Sports and PlusTvAfrica. My name is Wale Scott. Welcome on the show. Mukael, you can imagine, well, you know, but people out there have no idea what happens behind the scenes.
It takes a village.
It's convenient for us to even deal with the ones we have on ground already. Then they bring a David, they bring a Mecca, they bring Belema, and they are worse than the ones that we were dealing with in the first place. Kai. Wow.
What an introduction.
Yeah, really. I was trying to cope with the ones that we had, Shea and the rest of them, AJ, and then they bring Belema and they bring David and Emeka, and they are worse than the ones we had, man. Okay. The African Nations Cup. Cameroon in the semi-finals. Cote d'Ivoire in the semi-finals. And like we said yesterday, like you said yesterday, some people have been able to show that one tree can make a forest. Yes. Sadio Mane for Senegal, Mo Salah for Egypt. But there were fantastic saves at the tournament. I was going to show goals, but no. I think the most underrated people in football are the goalkeepers. And they do so much.
I mean, the truth is, it seems easy. Most people think that the most difficult thing a goalkeeper can do is have to save a penalty.
A penalty, yeah.
But that's not really it, because a player is the number one player in the team. A goalkeeper can be the difference between a top four, maybe a mid-table finish to winning the league. Literally, big teams spend a whole lot of money to accomplish the simple purchase of buying one of the best players in the world, one of the most critical positions in the team. Liverpool would not be the Liverpool they are today without Alisson. With all the money that Pep Guardiola has spent at Manchester City, he was not satisfied until he brought Edison in. And
David De Gea, look at what he's done.
David De Gea, even
and
though
what's that your goalkeeper's name? Mendy.
Sometimes De Gea's phone tails off. But then we've seen this season, he has been one of the big rocks keeping the team close to the top four finish. And maybe they will finish there, but if they do, it will be because of a goalkeeper. Manchester City have won title back-to-back largely because of a goalkeeper between the sticks who is the modern version of a goalkeeper. True. Good with his feet and still capable.
Even comes out to help the defense.
Yes. He's like the last line of defense. He is a libero. He is a deep line defensive midfielder rolled into one. When everybody else pushes forward, he has to stay alert. He has to be ready for anything. Remember those 2 seasons back-to-back that Luis Suarez scored half-pitch goals for Liverpool against Norwich. Back-to-back seasons. The goalkeeper his attention was turned off. And you have to be turned off 2-4 throughout the 90 minutes. And when you lose just a little bit of focus. And then there's all the technicalities that goes into whether you palm a ball sideways, palm it over.
Consistently tell the defenders where to stand, stay here, don't stay here, you know?
Goalkeepers have different responsibilities, attributes, skills. Someone like Lloris he has a lot of good. Lloris, Casillas, they are shorter by nature than other goalkeepers like the Schmeichels.
Edwin van der Sar.
Yes, but they have quick reflexes. You catch them out on the corners. You catch them out in crosses because they have to compete
never free
in the
kicks.
air. But never free kicks.
Never. Jose Chilevard. Many goalkeepers. Let's look at some of the 5 best saves. Okay, we don't have that yet, but you are a Chelsea fan, and I can say something without fear of favor. Thomas Tuchel is doing very well. He didn't buy any players. He worked with what Frank Lampard had. Yeah. Was Frank Lampard not able to use those players? I don't know.
I think, the nature of the game is that you expect form will tail off. It's inevitable. You can be in a 3-season form, like the strong teams of Mourinho, the first incarnation of Chelsea under Mourinho. Conte at Juventus, Conte at Chelsea,
And now Conte at Tottenham.
and now Conte at Tottenham. Form will dip. The problem is that when you're in a league where there's no room, your ambitions are so sky high, and there's no room for error because the teams you're competing with around you, even though they're going to drop points, if they're not dropping points at the same time as you're dropping points, you're going to worry that they won't drop points in the future because you cannot count on your opposition dropping points later down the line. You cannot control how they play when they drop points. If they drop points, you can only control your playing. And unfortunately, your playing will eventually meet walls, teams that will set up just to defend and frustrate you, keep your momentum to a minimum, and disrupt the game to force fouls, force set pieces, and that can disrupt rhythm that you need essentially to win. Teams like Manchester City, when they've gone up against a team like West Ham under Allardyce, even Mourinho, who many think is a defensive manager, complained about West Ham under Allardyce being so completely defensive. He called them dark ages football.
The pocket boss.
But nowadays, West Ham aren't playing that football. Nowadays, a lot of teams, even the teams who are struggling in relegation zones, are trying to play expansive football. But unfortunately, when you go up against a team that either chooses to defend staunchly or has no fear and throws caution to the wind and is capable of stringing plays together, it forces you to take a step back. And when you take a step back, the other team senses the weakness, senses the fear.
Okay, we'll come back to Frank Lampard. And he's been appointed as the coach of Chelsea. But we have the 5 best saves so far, so good, at the African Nations Cup in Cameroon. One of the finest saves from Africa, really, if you can ask me. So far, so good at the African Nations Cup. We're talking about Frank Lampard. Everton have appointed former Chelsea boss Frank Lampard as their manager on a 2.5-year contract. Now, the Premier League, Chelsea boss Frank Lampard has been appointed. The club said yesterday Everton sacked Rafael Benitez this month after a 2-1 defeat at Norwich left the Merseyside club 6 points above the relegation zone. Lampard is 43. Started his coaching career at second-tier Derby County in 2018, and after 1 season in charge, he became manager of Chelsea. The club he helped to win several major trophies in 13 years as a player. The former England midfielder led the London side to a 4th-placed league finish and the FA Cup final in his first season, but was dismissed in January last year after a poor run of results. Benitez was appointed 6 months ago, but the former Liverpool manager was a controversial choice for Everton fans, and the club slid down the table following a promising start to the season. Quickly, before we go to the next topic today, Frank Lampard. He's not going to get the kind of money he had when he was in Chelsea. He's not going to be able to get players like Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech. He's not going to get players like that. Ben Chilwell.
The beauty of being at a club like Everton is that the ambitions are much, much tamer than Chelsea. If he can get them to a mid-table finish regularly, it will be a lot better than where they are right now. And if he can do even a step further and get them closer to the top 7, top 6, maybe get them into Europe in the process, he will have done much better than anyone expects of a team like Everton, because David Moyes struggled for years to try to get that team into that position. Ancelotti's mission was to get Everton into Europe. He left before that was done, and Benitez he tanked what a beautiful setup that Ancelotti had managed to work with and got them close. Frank Lampard, I believe, can do the job.
So you think at this point it's too late to actually think of a Champions League spot, or
It's too late. For now, it's gone. Champions League.
next season?
Next
Frank
season,
Lampard.
maybe. He's going to be starting handicapped right now. But all he has to do is make sure they don't go down. And next season, they can come back again. Even if he's just one place above relegation. He keeps the job until next season and can manage to bring one or two new faces in, dispatch whoever he doesn't think is up to the task, up to the challenge of what he's trying to accomplish at Everton, and build a leaner, stronger, more focused Everton team.
Still on Frank Lampard and his Everton side, new side, Manchester United midfielder Donny van de Beek has joined Everton on loan and transfer deadline day. The Premier League club has said yesterday Van de Beek, who was signed by United for £35 million in 2020, has found limited playing time at the Old Trafford club under former manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and interim boss Ralf Rangnick. The Dutchman made only 4 league starts for United since his transfer. He was also linked with a loan move to Crystal Palace, but becomes new manager Frank Lampard's first signing at Goodison Park. Everton have only 1 league win since September, and the alarming dip in form forced the club to sack Rafael Benitez earlier this month, with Duncan Ferguson named as caretaker. The Merseyside club sits 16th in the standings, 4 points above the relegation zone. They are back in action on Saturday, February 5th, when they take on Brentford in the FA Cup. Massive player for Ajax.
I think.
Massive player for the Netherlands. He's a fantastic player. In Manchester United, what went wrong? Donny van de Beek.
I really can't say. I don't think anyone can understand, because this player did not just make his name in Ajax. He made his name in Champions League football. No matter what you think about the pace levels of Champions League football compared to English football, it's where the greats come to show us what they've got from all across Europe. And we've seen all kinds of... We've seen English teams go up against Shakhtar and lose.
True.
We've seen English teams go up against Malmo and drop points. So, that Ajax team went up against Juventus, went up against Real Madrid, went up against...
But come to think of it, every player who has been sold from that Ajax squad now are in the headlines right now.
Well,
Everybody who's
yes.
they're all in the headlines.
Unfortunately, I'm not so sure any of them should have left when they did.
Yes.
Barcelona is the club that the young wanted to join, even though Real Madrid also wanted him. But we see where they are now, and we don't know how quickly they will be able to find their footing again to being top pedigree European football club. De Ligt went to Juventus, even though Real Madrid wanted him, even though Barcelona wanted him. I think that was down to the power of Ronaldo, the agent.
Then De Jong went to Barcelona.
Yes.
Van de Beek went to Manchester United.
And unfortunately, other than De Jong, who has played regularly, who is indispensable to the first team at Barcelona, De Ligt has struggled to maintain consistency in playing time. Not that he's not good, he's still a fantastic defender, but he's going up against the Bonucci, Chiellini, players that are almost indisplaceable. The quality, the experience they bring to that back line is so indispensable. Then there's Van de Beek, and I just don't understand, because I feel that every time we've seen Van de Beek play, he plays well. He comes off the bench, he starts the game, he plays well. So I feel like he went to a team that was incredibly unbalanced in the midfield and never actually needed him. They had Paul Pogba, they had Fred, they had Bruno Fernandes, players who play in positions...
Nemanja Matic.
Yes, players who play in positions where he historically thrives. And if the only place you could play him is defensive midfield, and you get the least best of him if he's playing in the defensive midfield. And he's not as... Fred isn't a much better defensive midfield option But obviously, they've not bought well in midfield. They've not bought a strong enough defensive midfielder. And each manager tried to make Pogba work in midfield.
True.
And somehow it just never worked.
Let's move forward. He has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons the past few months. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He has agreed to a transfer from Arsenal to Barcelona. He agreed to that late yesterday. Now, the talks between the clubs almost broke down earlier on Monday, but reports indicate Aubameyang's contract with Arsenal was terminated, paving the way for a free transfer for the striker. Aubameyang was stripped of the Arsenal captaincy in December after a disciplinary breach, and it was highly expected he would make a move during the transfer window. Now, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, he used to be a very disciplined, whether for Gabon or for Arsenal, he used to be a very, even in Dortmund.
I've heard,
and then somewhere he just changed.
I've heard Arsenal fans criticize Arteta for keeping him out of the team. And I have to say, a player, it has to be so bad that not only the manager, because the manager cannot act on this kind of issue in a vacuum. It has to be so bad that the board sanctioned a transfer for a player without receiving anything.
No money.
No money.
Just they go.
Just
day or day.
We don't want you anymore.
That's sad.
It doesn't even happen. Even with everything that's gone on with Dembele, all the late situations at Barcelona,
and his many injuries, he's glass.
Many injuries.
Dembele is glass.
Barcelona still wanted to keep him, and even now that he has made it clear he doesn't want to sign a new contract, Barcelona wanted to sell him, not send him away. Barcelona could have saved a lot on his wages if they had just accepted they were going to make a loss and let him go in January, but they didn't.
But let's be honest. Let me play the devil's advocate this morning. Luckily, you're a Chelsea fan. And we have seen things happen in Chelsea, disciplinary, and they've been very matured about it. I've seen it happen in Manchester United. I followed the club for all my life. And I saw the way they took care of the case. Sorry to say, I want to believe that Arsenal most times are very childish with their decisions. I'm coming. This is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Whatever he did, it was too messy. They made it. The board made it too messy. And I'm thinking about Mesut Ozil, who had a problem, a country problem, and then they benched him because they claimed that some of their sponsors were German companies, and they refused to brand Mesut Ozil. So they refused to play him. And I'll name names now. Adidas refused to brand Mesut Ozil. And because he had to wear an Adidas jersey, they benched him. I think that's childish.
You're definitely right that in the way that Arsenal manage their players oftentimes is childish. I mean, there's this story about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah.
When he was at Arsenal, there was a clause in the transfer, the initial transfer agreement they had to purchase him initially, that said they would have to pay his selling club a certain amount of money. I believe it was Southampton.
Yeah.
They would have to pay them a certain amount of money for every, I think, 70 minutes of game that he managed to play. With consistency, every game he did start, they took him off before that 70th minute. With consistency, just to avoid paying that money.
Exactly.
And the boy could never find consistency in form enough to cement an undisputed starting place in the team.
Okay, I guess the feminists are going to love me this morning. A low number of competitive women's football matches stops players from showing their ability and limits the development of the sport, says Sarah Gregorius, FIFPRO's Director of Global Policy and Strategic Relations for Women's Football. Now, a report by Global Players Union, FIFPRO, which monitored the work, lead among women players showed that under load is one of the most pressing issues in the sport. The report found that even at the top level of the game, women players make a relatively low number of appearances each season. The COVID-19 pandemic led to a further decrease, with players taking part in an average of 22 matches during the 2019, 2020 and 2020 season. Now, former New Zealand international Gregorius believes short-term contracts make the problem worse. What Gregorius is trying to say really is that women are fighting for same pay with men, which is all right. But really, we don't play as much matches as the men play. We don't play as much seasons as the men play. We don't actually work as hard as the men work during the year. So how do we justify looking for same pay?
Well, I think when it comes to women's football, I think men need to take a step back, and a lot more women in executive positions have to be put there to take the lead on this issue, because we can never understand what it means to come from behind and try to establish a sport as important as women's football while you're competing for viewership with an already as established a sport as men's football. Men built men's football, and largely they built it for men. Women have to do the same with women's football, and they have to be given the free reins to pursue the right contracts, the right sponsorship deals, to pursue the right structures that ensure that they play just as many games as is needed to get women.
Last question. You got that? Okay, I got little time to go. Quickly, will the women be able to take the amount of matches, like you said, play the games as regularly as the men play? When push comes to shove, when it's time to play the amount of games that men play, can they make it?
She mentioned something, sharpening the knife.
Yeah.
Endurance is built over time, consistency, and there's nothing the human
Can
body...
they go through the fire?
There's nothing the human body cannot adapt to, and I believe even women can do so.
Okay, Mukail, thank you. Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa on a Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. Join us same time tomorrow, same station, Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. Thank you very much, AJ Ajasa. Thank you very much, Shei. Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Emeka Belema. Thank you very much, Peter, Powerhouse downstairs. Thank you very much. Join us same time tomorrow. My name is Wally Scott. Like I always advise you at the end of every show, if not for anything, at least for your heart, do some sports.